Amber Alert Podcast.
Welcome, Amber Alert Podcast, episode 108. I am your host, Amber Starkey. It is a great day to be alive. This is part one, because we always start with news and sort of politics, but it doesn't have to be politics. It's literally just whatever I see going on in the news that I find interesting. I would love it if I could see. Okay, great. Can I see more? No. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Okay. Should be live on Instagram, X, and Rumble. I've been posting later to Spotify, YouTube, and what's the last one? Substack. So if you like any one of those platforms, you can listen and follow, subscribe, do whatever on any of those platforms. The only reason I go live is because I hate editing video and I don't want to do that. So I run the risk of misspeaking going live and there's zero editing involved. So if I say something that I shouldn't say, it happens. All right. I was running a little late today. Fortunate I got down here at 6 o'clock to start this. I accidentally did Egyptian eyeliner, didn't mean to. I got super burnt my skin at the beach this week. So I'm like now peeling because it was a lot of sun at once. I feel like a dirt ball. My hair looks like I got electrocuted. It's been a busy but awesome week. So let's just go with it. First things first, let's get into the news. I do have a handful of videos today. Again, they're not necessarily breaking news or things like that. Sometimes I just happen to run across stuff that I find interesting. And since my name is on this podcast, I get to talk about what I find interesting. Now, having said that, in part two, which is always a conspiracy theory or a supernatural event, something unusual or, that type of thing, I always do in part two. This time I'm going to talk about a viral video from a guy by the name of Perry Stone that blew up during the week. And it has to do with UFOs and the church. It's not news to me. I already knew about a meeting that took place because I listened to and follow people who were in the meeting. So I knew about it in February when it happened. So to me, it wasn't news. I literally can't, I should be able to believe it, but I can't. I can't believe the amount of disbelief coming from other Christians that this meeting took place. I don't know what's hard to believe about it. I think maybe some things have been said that didn't actually happen. So I'll go through it in part two. We'll talk about what actually happened and what maybe is being said that isn't true. And maybe that's part of the reason people are having a hard time with it. I also think people are having a hard time with it because they're just haters and they already hate the supernatural. They don't believe in really any of it. They hate the Holy Spirit and they hate every spirit-filled Christian. So you're getting hate from people like that because they already hate these people who were in the meeting and they already think they lie and make things up, which they don't. But that's where the criticism is coming from. There's a camp in Christianity full of haters and critics and accusers who literally just hate the Spirit of God. And I think if they could get away with it, they would kill all full gospel Christians. That's how much they hate us. So it's a shame, but that's where we are. So we'll talk about that in part two. And then part three, we'll get into the Bible, which I'm actually going to get into the Bible in part two also, because I've been talking about this forever because of people I've followed for over a decade who've been talking about this. They're real researchers, right? Filmmakers, authors, all kinds of things, boots on the ground. So to me, none of this is news, but I guess for a lot of people it is because it's the first they've really heard about it. It's gone mainstream in a hurry. You know what I'm saying? Like it's always been there, but it's like a lot of people, I think maybe they heard of it in passing, but they didn't really want to deal with it because it made them uncomfortable, or they're like, I don't know if this is in the Bible or not. Like, so they, as Christians, just sort of avoided the subject, which I don't really fault people for. But we're at the point where it's mainstream, it's everywhere, and you're going to have a narrative that's going to come out of the government. And so you should go to the Bible for your source of information. And if you can't get it from the Bible because no one will tell you, then you're going to end up going to other sources that you're not going to get the truth from. So we have to be able to establish from the Bible why we're seeing what we're seeing and identify what it is, so that people don't get into fear and they don't have their faith shaken, or they don't outright like abandon it or whatever. There's a strong delusion coming, the Bible says. So we should look at some of the things that are in the Bible that people maybe don't read, or they haven't connected the dots. That's possible. People have read it, but they didn't really connect the dots until someone's like, hey, well, hold on a second. This happened in the Bible, and exactly what happened in the Bible is happening in all of these situations. So where you see the same behavior, you see probably the same thing, right? So we'll get into that in part 2. But until then, let's do news. Sorry. All right, now, so Sweden implants microchips in thousands of people to replace IDs, credit cards, keys, and wallets. This isn't news. They've been doing this for years. Anyway, John Rich said, now, where have I heard this before? Oh, that's right. John wrote about it 2,000 years ago. Yeah, here's the thing. They're doing this. They're putting microchips in people. It's transhumanism, really, but of course they're doing it as a as a way of just making life more convenient, right? Hey, if you get this microchip in your hand, you can unlock your house without having to fidget with keys. You can pay in a store without having to swipe a card or use your phone. You can, you get pulled over. All of your identification is in this implant in your hand, and so all you got to do is wave a thing over it and all of your information's there. You can never lose your wallet or keys again because they're in your hand. Doesn't that sound nice and convenient? So it's going to be like, this is just set up. It's a precursor to the mark of the beast. Like John Rich said, we read about this 2,000 years ago in the book of Revelation. That there's going to be, if you take the mark of the beast, it's going to be a mark in your forehead or in your right hand or forearm, and you can't buy or sell without it. So the writing's on the wall. This is exactly what's unfolding, and no one should be surprised. We're in the final minutes of the end of the age, before the Antichrist will make himself, the church gets raptured, the Antichrist will make himself known, and then boom, we're going to be it'll be the tribulation here on earth, where the Antichrist will rise to power, and there is going to be a mark of the beast coming. There's going to be a one world banking system, one world military, one world government, one world religion, and there's a fifth one that I always forget. So you're seeing the groundwork being laid for such a system. And like, I think the COVID, the vaccine passports, COVID as a whole was like a trial run for the Antichrist system. It didn't work because it was too soon. And a lot of people were like, I'm not going to comply. I'm not going to get a vaccine passport. I'm not going to get a forced vaccination. I'm not doing this. Definitely not going to wear a mask. That's not going to do anything to hold back a virus. No. Anyway, so it was like a trial run. And then when you see this with people getting implants in their hands, it's also just a precursor to the eventual reality of the mark of the beast. So it's not news. It's been going on for years. Next. Tucker Carlson denies calling Trump the Antichrist. That's not some random throwaway line that you get twisted when you call somebody the Antichrist. That's a really, really bold claim. So you either mean it and now you're walking it back, or you threw it out there for clicks and now you don't want to deal with the blowback. Yeah. So anyone still listening to Tucker Carlson, just tell me why you're retarded. For your own sake, you should stop. He's awful. He is awful. He doesn't even tell the truth. And when he does think he's telling the truth, he's out of his mind. He's literally like full of one freezing cold take after another. I don't know how he has an audience, because all of the people who used to like him, I would like to think you have enough common sense to see through what's going on now. If you were able to be on the right side of like every issue up to this point, can't you see that Tucker's not what he once was, or at least was doing a good job of pretending to be? You can't see the Islamic talking points, like the simping for Islam. Like I don't, if you can't see through it, you probably fell for COVID. You probably fell for like BLM, the race baiting, get everybody to think everything's racist. Everyone, all white people hate all black people, like that type of garbage propaganda that's been spit out by the media, one network after another. You've probably fallen for that if you can't see through Tucker by now. And if you are still on the right and you can't see through Tucker, you are now as dumb as the left. And those are the people you've made fun of for not being able to see through propaganda. And yet you can't see through it either. So we'll get to the video. I don't know if I want to play it yet. I have a video about Tucker. I'm not going to play it just yet because I think it's from Officer Tatum and there's something on him. So we'll get to it in a second. All right. Erin Rose Phillip is celebrated as the first Black transgender woman with quadriplegic cerebral palsy. I can't read. This is too small. Who was signed to a major modeling agency. Here's Erin arriving at the Met Gala. Okay. How about you pick a struggle? All right. I'm trans and it's so hard to be trans. I'm a quadriplegic and I'm like, just pick a struggle. Okay. There's way too much going on there. Why are you transgender? Do you not have enough problems? If this wasn't as insane as it is, I would feel sorry for this person, but I don't. Because this is just ridiculous. Did someone talk him into this? Is there someone in his ear like, hey, you've already got a lot of problems. Let's add to it by making you trans. And then you'll get some 15 minutes of fame, apparently a modeling contract. That's nuts. There's something terrible I thought about saying, but it's the grace of God that I didn't. Next. Tucker Carlson is a net negative to our country. How can you live with yourself just straight up lying? You are right, Officer Tatum. Let's get to this video that I was just talking about. Tucker cannot own up to his own comments. Hold on.
Is the anti.
Start over,
this
please.
guy cannot get away with being this
blue?
ignorant and gaslighting and lying, and it's detrimental to our country.
You've been talking on your show about whether Trump is the Antichrist.
I have not said that.
On your show, the day after Easter, you noted he did not put his hand on the Bible during his swearing-in ceremony as president. You said, and I'm quoting, maybe he didn't put his hand on the Bible because he affirmatively rejects what's inside that book. And then on a recent show, you went further saying, here's a leader who's mocking the gods of his ancestors, mocking the God of gods, and exalting himself above them. Could this be the Antichrist?
I actually did not say, could this be the Antichrist?
Here's a leader who's mocking the gods of his ancestors, mocking the God of gods, and exalting himself above them. Could this be the Antichrist?
Said it word for word.
Who knows?
I don't know where that comes from, but I know that those words never left my lips because
they did, actually.
I'm not sure I fully understand what the Antichrist is. If there's just one, I actually tried to understand it. I may have said some are asking that. I'm not weighing in on that because I don't understand it.
Y'all know y'all be eating me up if I did that. He don't know what the Antichrist is. Before you accuse the president of the United States of America, somebody whom we all have voted for, that, to be honest, if we didn't have Donald Trump in office, we'll lose our country a long time ago. And you said that he's the Antichrist, and somehow you either don't remember or you're lying. Before you make a suggestion like that, you think you would know what the Antichrist is, right? So you don't know what the Antichrist is, and you claiming you never said it. Which one is it, bro?
As he's on video saying it. So, and that lady was from the New York Times, I believe, which is crazy that you're going to make someone from the New York Times be correct. The New York Times is an awful publication. They don't tell the truth. And yet, in that case, they were right, and Tucker's a liar. And it's also interesting. I don't know what the Antichrist is, really. I thought you were a theologian because you were able to school everybody on Israel, right? You can school everybody on how the church has replaced Israel, and there's no significance anymore to the land or the people. So I thought you were a theologian, Tucker, but you don't know what the Antichrist is. Caught red-handed, can't own up to it. That guy is full of it. Next. Ceasefire apparently over as Iran fires missiles at the UAE. What? Oil zone Fujairah? Oil zone on fire. I don't know how to pronounce that. I don't know. I believe I heard, this was a few days ago, I think I heard that the UAE was planning to hit back, but I don't know if that actually happened. But here's the thing. For the people who are defending Iran that are upset about this conflict, notice the UAE is made up of a bunch of Muslims and all the other Arab countries who also hate Israel, many of which also hate America. Even they are like, yeah, Iran can go to hell. Or not the country, not the people, but this regime that's been running the country. We are happy to blow them up and see them gone. That's how insane. So for the people, I don't know why we've gotten involved with Iran. Were they really a problem? Yes, even other Muslims know they were a problem. That regime is the worst. Look how nobody's come to help them. Nobody. They're like, you know what, Israel? Surrounding countries are like, Israel, we hate your guts, but if you need help killing off this regime, we'll help you. That's how insane that regime is. So anyone taking Iran's side, I don't think your IQ can exist. Like, it can't. You can't be that dumb, or you're just obsessed with lying. I don't know. It's crazy. Next. Rep. Randy Fine says Armenians, Somalis, Guatemalans, Israelis, and any other dual citizens should not serve in Congress. Way to go, Randy Fine. The only reason anyone doesn't like him is because he's Jewish, and he's been accused of being a dual citizen between the United States and Israel, but he is not. He's straight up American. People just don't like him because they hate Jews and he's Jewish. So he is sitting here saying nobody with dual citizenship should serve in Congress. So the very thing people are trying to accuse him of being, he's saying, no, I don't think anyone who is that should serve. And this also applies to that terrible person with the mullet who has dual citizenship, I think with Armenia, who just hates Jews. He was trying to figure out how to kill Ben Shapiro or something to that extent very recently that just came out. I think making comments about how can we take these people out? Do you know where Ben Shapiro lives? And yet there are actually retards who will vote for a person like that over Randy Fine because Randy Fine is Jewish. And here he is serving America. He's done a phenomenal job. But no, you just also hate Jews. So you're like, let's vote for this psychopath who wants to kill people. That's got to be a good choice. Next. Nick Fuentes is out of the closet. I knew he was a homo. We told you so. Nick Fuentes, now by his own admission. Oh, I thought this was about him being gay. So he's still in the closet about that. This is about politics. By his own admission, says he is a Democrat. Okay, big surprise. We told you it was an op. We told you he was not on our side. It was never infighting. Some of us just saw this coming from a mile away. Yeah, all you had to do was listen. You could tell he's a little flaming plant. There looks like there's some wheels are falling off among the woke right. Candace Owens has Laura Loomer put this assault on Candace Owens, and Candace has been shutting up to some extent about Erica Kirk and stuff. And it's funny how she's also not she's not denying any of the things Laura Loomer's bringing, because I think they're all true, and Loomer has the receipts. So whatever you think of Laura Loomer, she's bringing receipts, something Candace doesn't do. So she's been getting battered on social media. Candace has been. Tucker's getting caught red-handed lying and getting shown up by the New York Times of all publications. It's crazy. Fuentes got exposed in that SPLC lawsuit after the Charlottesville thing, and J6, he was an instigator. What should tell you again, that had planning behind it and not by Republicans. And then you have this Bilzerian, whatever, the dual citizenship guy who hates Jews. Some of the stuff coming out, how he wants to kill people. Like, you guys aren't, the woke Reich, they had their little run, you know, where people were actually listening to them and thinking, oh yeah, they've really uncovered some stuff about Israel. And yeah, they're America first because Trump sold and blah, 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 blah. Now there's starting to come some exposure, and everyone who's not dumb like me on this subject could see through that. But at least if you couldn't, now you should be able to start being able to see through it now as this stuff is coming to the surface. These people weren't right about anything, many of which are paid, all or maybe all of them, and they're full of garbage. They walk back on what they say. They're not being truthful about anything. They suck, okay? So if you're getting influenced by them, for the love of God, please break off. Please, or you're going to become the worst version of yourself, and likely worse than that, but I don't have time to get into it. Next. Adolis! I wish more people would understand that the spirit precedes the natural. What you're seeing with your optical eye isn't what's final. Amen. The problem isn't the sickness, failure, or oppression. It's rooted in the spirit. Yes. Our job is to make the spirit our reality. And remember this, faith doesn't deny reality. It lays hold of a higher one. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earthly. It's cut off. I would like to read the rest, but I don't have it because I didn't realize it was more than one page. Great job, Miss Adolis. I love you. Next. Marco Rubio gives an update on the Strait of Hormuz while filling in for Carolyn Levitt at the White House press briefing. Remember how this was a joke? He was pretending to fill in for her because he has like 500 jobs, and now apparently he's actually doing it. I hope it come 2028, if we're still here and everything, I hope Marco Rubio runs for president. I would be happy to vote for him. I really would. Next. Trump is teaching kids his dance on the White House lawn. This is great. This little Trump dance, whatever it is. Let's watch it. Where's the sound? Is there no sound? I want to watch it. I'm going to see if I can do it. I don't know if I know how. I think that's all there is to it. Anyway, great job, President Trump. 80 years old or 79, whatever he is. You know, I think I remember some NFL players, you know how so many of them have a little dance they do in the end zone after scoring a touchdown. I'm pretty sure there were some of them that were doing the Trump dance in the end zone. So he is iconic. Love him or hate him, you got to give him creds for what he's done for the internet as far as memes go and all kind of stuff. He's done more than any president in that regard, for sure. Next. Exclusive. Tucker Carlson just argued that Iran should have nukes. Again, you're worse than neighboring Islamic nations who don't want them to have nukes. Oh my gosh, Tucker. Like, I hope, you know what? Let me just say this. I genuinely hope that people like him, and there are a bunch of Christians that this would apply to too, I hope they lose their voices for a time. I mean, literally. And I mean their ability to type or text or post or say anything on social media, on any platform, because they're doing damage every time they talk. every subject, they're doing damage and deceiving people. And unfortunately, lots of Christians. And the problem is you have so much deception that's coming at you from the world that you shouldn't have it coming at you from the church as well. But like Joseph Z says, Satan couldn't stop the church, so he did the next best thing, which was join the church. So now you have a deceptive or deceitful influence coming from within the church that unfortunately influences other people in the church and outside. So I actually hope people lose their ability to say anything. The ones who just either lie right and left like Tucker, or are actually so like blinded by a Pharisee spirit or whatever it is that they don't tell the truth and they're doing harm. Like, I literally hope you're removed from your position of influence, because you're not walking in step with the Spirit. You're not in agreement with the Spirit of God. You are literally spewing unbelief, division, sowing discord. And then like Tucker, just, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know what his agenda is. It's got to be to see the destruction of America. Anyone who wants Iran to have nukes, well, the destruction of Israel as well, because Iran hates us both. Do you not know, Tucker, about this regime, how they'd be in the streets like every Friday or whatever, burning American flags and chanting death to America? And you want that country to have nukes? That's like someone makes threats against, let's say you have a son or a daughter, and someone consistently, week after week, year after year, makes threats against your child. And then you're like, you know what? I think that person should have keys to my house. If you want your kid to get murdered by that person, you'd give them keys. So that's where we are with Iran having nukes. Why? Because Israel. So never mind that Shia Islam's end times vision centers on a Middle East war helping to trigger the return of the so-called hidden imam or the Mahdi. The Iranian regime has repeatedly declared only to fellow radical Islamists, of course, that attacks on Israel help prepare the world for the return of the Mahdi, aka the 12th Imam. Not coincidentally, Iran's specific denomination is called 12er Shia Islam. Given that Tucker openly admits to communicating with Iran's top officials, he certainly must be aware of their religious extremism. He doesn't think it's extreme. He thinks there are good things about Sharia law. He has said that. Yet to Tucker, Iran acquiring nuclear weapons would be a pragmatic way to curtail Israel's unrestrained power. Okay, so he wants Iran to have nukes because of how much he hates Israel, apparently. I think there's more. Tucker hates the Jewish state so much that he wants Iran to have nuclear weapons, giving it the ability to hold the world hostage on a whole slew of issues, particularly on energy markets and global trade. Nukes would also grant Iran free rein to support terrorist activities around the world, which they've been doing. They've been the number one state sponsor of terrorism. Hezbollah, Hamas, all of them. Nukes would also grant I already read that. Never mind the fact that nukes would give an end times obsessed regime the ability to, well, end the world as we know it. But to Tucker, all that is a small price to pay to give the ultimate weapon to the very people who want to wipe Israel off the map. What an evil psychopath. No wonder he's been like simping for Hitler, because Hitler basically wanted to wipe, he wanted to wipe out all Jews, and now sounds like Hitler would like for the same thing to happen. So no wonder he's like, you know what? I don't really think Hitler was that bad of a guy. Like, okay. Speaking of another evil, terrible person, Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly's inexplicable backflip on Islam. In the past 4 months, she's gone from saying it's your duty as a Christian to stand up and fight against it versus now celebrating Tucker Carlson's growing Muslim audience, seemingly moving in that direction herself. Is there a video here? I believe there is. Maybe there's not. Yeah, there is. Psycho. I can't stand her.
Of the West. They should stay in countries that don't care about keeping church and state separated. They should stay in countries that don't care about protecting free speech. They should stay in countries that don't care about women's rights. That's where Islam can fester and grow. It's great. I mean, I'm sure if that's like your thing and you don't care about like genital mutilation, you might really enjoy living in an Islamic country. If you don't mind living in a life as a woman where you have to keep every inch of your body except for your eyeballs covered, yeah, it's someplace in the Middle East could be for you. It's not my thing. It's not America's thing. And it's not a thing that we should want or encourage in the West. I think he's understanding there may be some new listeners over here, you know, like he's gotten very, very popular lately. I read with Muslim viewers because he's been standing up for Islam, you know, and I have to tell you, Mark, it's been something I've noticed just since I've gotten sort of more clear-eyed on Israel, that a lot of the anti-Muslim rhetoric that's put out there originates with people who are very, very pro-Israel, who kind of need us to demonize them. Right. And I've taken a look recently at my own rhetoric on this to say, like, have I been manipulated? I want to make sure I'm not getting manipulated. There's no such thing as Islamophobia.
That's hilarious. You really think you need Israel or anyone to tell you that Islam is evil? What about just having eyes? I don't need anyone to tell me. I can watch how Muslims force other people to convert or they kill you. Watch how they're murdering Christians in Nigeria and Sudan. Watch how they treat their own wives. Watch how they marry 6-year-olds. I don't need Israel or anyone to tell me it's evil. I have eyes. And you want to tell me I'm manipulated by what I'm seeing? No. If you actually read the Quran, this is what they're told to do. Like, this is what, in fact, if Muslims actually follow the Quran, they literally will kill anyone who doesn't convert. Muhammad was a massive pedophile. It's an evil religion of pedophilia and violence and murder. Where's the confusion, Megan? You don't need a single person to tell you that. If you have a shred of integrity, which I don't think you do, you can open your eyes and see. And if you meet peaceful Muslims like I have, it's because they're not really following Islam. Because if they were, they wouldn't be peaceful. Gosh, what a psycho. I can't believe. I should be able to believe it, but the fact that those words came out of her mouth, she's another person who should lose her voice forever. Next. Romans 9-11, Israel in the church. This is Dr. Frank Turek, who I love, and I want to hear what he has to say because I haven't listened to this yet. If you're not retarded on the subject of Israel and the Bible, it's probably going to be just a what is the word if you're something you're already familiar with? Not repeat. It'll be familiar. That's not the word anyway. Something you already understand. Why are they turning blue?
The fact that Israel is in Romans 9, 10, and 11 talked about distinctly from believers shows you that Israel still exists and Israel still has a future. In fact, he even says this. I got to find this passage here. It's from Romans 11. He says, 11:28, he says, as regards the gospel, they, meaning Israel, are enemies of God for your sake. But as regards election, they are beloved for the sake of the patriarchs or the forefathers. Now, in this case, he's talking about the election of the nation of Israel, not election of people to salvation, because it couldn't be election to salvation. If it was, they wouldn't be enemies of God. They wouldn't be enemies of the gospel, right? So,
and just a couple verses before that, it says, I don't want you to be ignorant of the mystery concerning Israel. Yes. So there's a mystery, and a biblical mystery is not something that can't be known. It's something that has been revealed. It was a mystery at one point, but that mystery has now been revealed. And Paul a few times says, I don't want you to be ignorant of the mystery. One of them is there when it comes to the nation of Israel being regrafted onto the vine.
Yeah, there's so much in the scriptures, particularly 9, 10, 11, Romans 9, 10, 11. I just don't understand how people can read that and come away with thinking that Israel's now gone and the church completely replaces Israel. What other arguments could they give for that? Robert, why do people say that? It just,
I think it's a theological bias. So
yes,
when I look, I've got a book now on covenant theology that I'm listening to. While I'm driving, I'm listening to it.
Okay.
And I haven't heard any good biblical arguments towards it. I've heard them criticize the way we interpret the scriptures. They do it in a much more metaphorical way. We do it in a much more literal way. That's the criticism.
That's how you're guaranteed to get into bad doctrine, is to not take the Bible literally. If you make everything a metaphor or allegorical, you are like destined to be deceived. You will get into bad doctrine as soon as you abandon taking scripture literally, which is what everyone does when they go the whole route of the church replaced Israel. You cannot take that position while taking the Bible literally. You can't.
They have with us. But they aren't going to come back to these scriptures and try to make the argument. They're going to go earlier in Romans 9 where it says, not all Israel is Israel. And therefore, we are Israel who are the church. But that's not what that's saying there. When you go back and you read it, not all Israel is Israel. That means some in Israel are not real Israel. It doesn't have anything to do with the church being Israel now, which is what they try to make the statement, that the church has become Israel. No, we've been grafted on the vine, but we're one new humanity. Again, Ephesians chapter 2, God did something incredible by making us one new man. We're among Jews and Gentiles that are now one body, one new people, a holy generation.
Yeah, it's really not hard. It's not hard. If you're having a hard time with it, it's because, like he said, of bias. It's because you already hate Israel, you hate Jews, you've been listening to people like Tucker or Megan, and you don't want to see what the Bible says on the subject because you want to justify your position. You want to justify the bias you already have, and you don't want to change, which is what people do on every subject. I don't like tongues. I don't like that. So instead of just taking the Bible for what it says, I'm going to find a way to make this not applicable. You're not honest in your interpretation, because all the rules for Bible interpretation that you use for everything else, you somehow abandon when it comes to spiritual gifts and stuff. So that's bias. Because people, they grow up in churches that demonize certain things, and they can't then get out of the comfort zone they've been in. It's just people do that, and it's a shame. You have to stay committed to desiring the truth. Before I even started this episode, I prayed that the Lord would help me speak the truth, and that's it. That I would walk in step with the Spirit, that the Spirit of truth would guide me into all truth, that I wouldn't be deceived, that I wouldn't deceive anyone else, and that if I have an agenda that I'm unaware of, I was like, I curse it in the name of Jesus. I don't want an agenda. I want the truth, and that's it. Regardless of what it requires of me. If I have to humble myself and admit I was wrong on a position I held, then I'm going to do that. And I ask for God's grace to help me do it. I don't want to, I don't have an agenda. I just want the truth. Like, that's it. I don't care who that makes me agree with or disagree with or follow or stop following. I'm just committed to the truth. I'm not sure why that's like a rare thing these days. But no, everybody's I already took this position, and so I can't accept anything else. Okay, well, thank God I'm not like that. Next. Where does Calvinism go wrong? This is once again Dr. Turek, and oh, there was a Tucker Carlson video that I didn't play. And you know what? Thank God, because I don't even want to hear from him ever again. So I'm not even going to go back and play it. This is Frank Turek. He's a great apologist. He was Charlie Kirk's mentor. Let me find the video. If anything will load, I guess we're just going to take our time. Okay, here it is.
out of the 5 points, what is the main thing that's, for lack of a better term, wrong? What's
There's
wrong
a bunch
about
of stuff
Calvinism?
that's wrong with it.
The ultimate problem with Calvinism, hard 5-point Calvinism, in my view, is it makes the world a sham because we really don't have a free choice, but God is telling us that we ought to choose him when we can't choose him because he hasn't chosen us at all. And secondly, it makes God the author of evil. In fact, let me give you a debate that took place 40 years ago at Dallas Theological Seminary. It was between Norman Geisler, my mentor, and a guy by the name of John Gerstner. And at one point, Geisler turned to Gerstner and he said, does man have free will? And Gerstner said, yes, man has free will to do what he desires, but God gives him the desire of his heart. So Geisler said, who gave Adam the desire to sin? And Gerstner said, mystery. And Geisler said, contradiction.
My in-laws are Calvinist. I want to.
Also, too, you'll know a thing by its fruit, right? You can judge a tree by its fruit. So what is the fruit that a certain type of Christianity is producing? And when you look at Calvinism, Calvinists are the biggest haters I think I've ever encountered in all of Christianity. Catholics are pretty chill. Obviously, the Pope is nuts, but like Catholics, you can get along with fine. You can get along with plenty of Baptists, very easy to get along with. Most of them, there are lots of people you can get along with just fine. They're not haters. They're just, they're in the denomination they're in for their own reasons. But Calvinists they hate, they have the least joy of any Christian I've ever seen. They're miserable. They hate everyone. They're just awful, and they don't do anything that produces good fruit. So look at the fruit that comes from Calvinism. There's no good fruit there. And on the flip side, look at the fruit of evangelical Christianity. And then more specifically, look at the fruit of full gospel Christianity. Actually going into all the world, the people who have done the most to build the church and advance the gospel and see more and more people saved have come from full gospel Christians, spirit-filled Christians, because that's how Jesus intended for the church to be, spirit-filled. There wasn't this, well, if you feel like it, you can have it, but you don't have to. No, it was like, don't do anything until you're baptized in the Spirit and you receive power, because you're going to need it to go do the things that I did, which I expect you to do. I've commanded you to. You're my body. Go do what I did. Carry on the work that I started. That's why I'm sending the helper to you, because you can't do it in your own strength. And the fruit that produces is mass crusades, tons of salvations, the sick getting healed, devils being cast out of people, even the dead being raised. Look at the fruit. You can be a critic and a hater and an accuser and not produce any good fruit. So you'll know a thing by its fruit, right? Which one's actually partnering with Jesus? Which one's actually doing the works that he did? So, whatever your issues are with that kind of Christianity, if you'd rather be like that, like the Calvinists or these Reformed churches that are just full of haters and critics, knock yourself out. But it's not producing very good fruit, or kind of no fruit too, as far as in the kingdom of God. There's not, those churches never grow, and churches should grow. The kingdom of God's built on increase. Everything starts as a seed and then is expected to grow. It's commanded. So if there's no growth, there's a problem. There's a disconnect somewhere. You may be saved, right? You might actually know Jesus and love him and be in right relationship with him, but there's a disconnect somewhere. If it's not growing, there's a problem. Next. Vivek Ramaswamy. I don't know if that's how you say it. He won 100% of Ohio counties in the governor GOP primary. I voted for Vivek. To be honest, I don't really trust him. I'm not a huge fan. However, he was just the best choice in my opinion. I know that Casey Push, or however you say it, he was backed by Tucker Carlson. So I'm definitely not going to vote for anyone Tucker likes. So even if I hated Vivek, which I don't hate him, I just don't really trust him. I'm not going to take anyone who's in bed with Tucker Carlson. Hail no, literally. Next. Brendan Dilley. Crime has dropped exponentially. The stock market is going to the moon. Iran is crippled beyond repair. The UFC is fighting on the White House lawn next month. Oh, that's in June. Okay. The border is closed. The government has shrunk to 1960s era size, and you're blackpilling. Yeah, dude. All these people complaining, Trump hasn't delivered on his campaign promises. Blah, 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 blah. He's delivered on a bunch of them. Okay. Yeah, gas prices are temporarily higher than anyone would like until we get this issue with the Strait of Hormuz sorted. Trump can't help that there are communists in the government who are fighting his tariffs. Okay. Yeah, I would give you, if you have any complaints, it would be the Epstein files, and I would agree with you. I don't like that that's not been brought out as it should be. But other than that, he's delivered on everything else. So I don't know. You wanted deportations, you got them. You wanted less taxes, you got them. Like, I don't just be thankful. My gosh, everyone is so quick to criticize all the time. How about just being thankful? Just be thankful that if you're conservative, you have a president in there who hates globalism and hates communism, and he's doing things that are good for America. Just chill. Next. Britain's first gay surrogate parent has been charged with rape and human trafficking for sexual exploitation. Imagine that. Someone who's already sexually deviant. Can't believe it, right? It's supposed to never happen. Barry Druitt Barlow, 57, who's now married to his daughter's ex-boyfriend. That must have been an awkward conversation. Became the first gay parent to surrogate babies in 1999 in the UK with his now ex-husband who had throat cancer. Interesting. Okay. Druitt Barlow purchased multiple children, twins Aspen and Saffron, Orlandum, and another set of twins, Jasper and Dallas. He also has children, Valentina and Romeo, with his daughter's ex-boyfriend. Disgusting. Oh my gosh. Barry and Scott Druitt Barlow, 32, co-own the Malden and Tiptree Football Club, which, since this is Britain, that's got to be soccer, right? When they say football, they don't actually mean football like we do in America. Barry has been charged with 3 counts of sexual assault on a male, 4 counts of rape of a man 16 or over, and 2 counts of arranging or facilitating travel of another person with a view to exploitation, according to Sky News. Scott is charged with 1 count of sexual assault on a male, 1 count of rape of a man. I already read this. Why is it here twice? Okay, that's repetitive. So during an interview, Barry said he purchased a woman's eggs after seeing her on a catwalk in Miami. That's her fault for selling them to that weirdo. He said he wanted beautiful kids because he didn't want to deal with ugly ones. Take their kids from them. Yeah, that's people have questions. Why is there a hell? Well, sort of like because of stuff like that. And if you think that type of thing shouldn't be punished, I don't know what to tell you. Next. Here's the thing that's really strange about the Hantavirus. I don't know. Hantavirus. Don't know how to pronounce it because I don't care about it. Why are there so many old tweets predicting this would happen exactly right now? So somebody posted from, I think, 2022. And I can't read it. It's too far away. But they put, like, I think it says 2026 Hantavirus. So it's COVID all over again. It's COVID all over again. Try to get people in fear. Oh, no, this thing is spreading and it's killing people and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's been planned for years. Remember? Bill Gates said, there will be more pandemics. The Bible tells us in the end times there will be pestilences, not one, pestilences, plural. So it's all been planned, and it is what it is. Just don't fall for it. Republicans are on the verge of a double-digit gain in U.S. House seats through redistricting, per CNN. Interesting. I hear that the whole thing that's been shaken up with the redistricting has swung the midterms in favor of the Republicans, and that's great, but that's crazy because there for a while it was looking very bad for conservatives in the midterms, like we were going to get annihilated, and now things are swinging in our favor. So we'll see how everything shakes out, but it is shaking things up in the meantime. Next. When referring to pandemics, please always call them by their proper names. 2020 presidential election virus and 2026 midterm election virus. Yeah, remember how they were like, I don't think we can let people vote in person in 2020, all because of this stupid garbage COVID. Next. Thomas Massey fell for the fake photo that alleged that DHS started its account in Israel. This guy fell for one of the least believable hoaxes on the internet. He does not belong in Congress. Yeah, so he's there on the record saying, oh my gosh, look, the DHS has an account based in Israel. And it actually wasn't true. Thomas Massey sucks. Gosh, I hope he goes away and we never have to hear from him again. I can't stand him. He's garbage. He never helps conservatives. Just leave. Next. If you think your government would never deliberately harm you, watch Bill Clinton in 1995 apologizing to the survivors and families of those who unknowingly were subjects of over 4,000 government-sponsored medical experiments, mostly without their knowledge or consent. So this actually happened. I've seen this video before, but I'm going to play it again for the people who haven't seen it. Bill Clinton, what an idiot.
Experiments did take place at hospitals, universities, and military bases around our nation. The goal was to understand the effects of radiation exposure on the human body.
Oh.
While most of the tests were ethical by any standards, some were unethical, not only by today's standards, but by the standards of the time in which they were conducted.
No kidding.
They failed both the test of our national values and the test of humanity. In one scientist injected plutonium into 18 patients without their knowledge. In another, doctors exposed indigent cancer patients to excessive doses of radiation, a treatment from which it is virtually impossible that they could ever benefit. The report also demonstrates that these and other experiments were carried out on precisely those citizens who count most on the government for its help, the destitute and the gravely ill. But the dispossessed were not alone. Members of the military, precisely those on whom we and our government count most, they were also test subjects. Informed consent means your doctor tells you the risk of the treatment you are about to undergo. In too many cases, informed consent was withheld. Americans were kept in the dark about the effects of what was being done to them. The deception extended beyond the test subjects themselves to encompass their families and the American people as a whole. For these experiments were kept secret, and they were shrouded.
Gosh, he's boring. Basically, they tested radiation on people because they wanted to know what the effects would be, and they did some other things against that people were part of they didn't know about, and then he had to apologize for it. So if you think that the government would not intentionally kill people off with experimental injections and intentionally poison your food, poison the skies, poison the water supply, put all kinds of garbage in vaccines, think again. I don't know why you would trust them not to. They're not your friends. They're largely influenced and funded by people like Bill Gates, who has spoken openly about being a depopulationist. We need there to be less people on planet Earth. And you would trust anything coming from a person like that. Oh, I'm sure it's good for me. I'm sure it's safe. I'm sure they wouldn't intentionally hurt people. Bro, wake up. Next. A humanoid robot was just ordained as a Buddhist monk in South Korea named, I don't know, I can't read from here, Gabby or Gable. I can't tell if that's an I or an L, meaning mercy. It became the first robot to take part in such a ritual. Some questions worth stating. What? I can't read that. Starting with, I don't know. Why is this so far away from me? It's super annoying. Is this the merging of iron and clay spoken of in Daniel 2? Impressive on the surface, but ultimately unstable. Can a machine made by human hands truly carry something sacred? No. Are we watching mankind reach again for things that belong to God alone? Or is this simply technology being used in ways never intended? We were warned that in the last days, deception would come in all forms we wouldn't expect. Discern carefully. What do you think? Obviously, I don't really care what they do in Buddhism because it's already a godless religion. But yeah, again, it's transhumanism. And as far as it being the mixing of, in Daniel 2, the mixing of iron and clay, it's Daniel 2:43 that talks about their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave to them. I suppose it could maybe apply to robots or something like that, or transhumanism. I more so see it as fallen angels and the seed of the serpent, the seed of Satan, and whatever beings are part of that, which we'll get into very shortly in part 2. That's what I more so see as them, the iron and the clay mixing, but they don't quite mix. Is you have the seed of men, and then you have the seed of the devil, and they don't mix because they're of different seeds, which is the seed war kicks off in Genesis 3:15. You see it happen literally in Genesis 6. And then you read that in Daniel 2:43. Daniel is a prophetic end times book. So for everyone shocked about this whole alien UFO narrative, your Bible actually prepared you. You might have to connect some dots, but it's all been there for thousands of years. The Bible has all the answers you need on the subject. So I would be careful before I would go anywhere else. Doesn't mean that there aren't people out there who don't have a biblical worldview, who might have factual information about the subject, but I would be very careful before I would listen to their interpretation of what the UFOs are or the aliens, because the Bible, if the Bible is the most important thing to you and it's your source of truth on every other subject, it should be your source of truth on this one as well. I would be very careful to go outside the Bible, which we'll get into in part 2. Next. UFO files reveal claim of a secret flying saucer capable of reaching 1,500 miles per hour, built by the Nazis. Yeah, it's well documented. The Nazis were into the occult. Hitler had mediums he consulted. The whole mess with not Argentina. What's the icy place? Antarctica. The New Schwabenland. How the Nazis had a base there in Antarctica, and supposedly they were looking for something called the Vril, which was like this power source that was a subterranean species of some kind had. So they're underground, and they had this power source, which is supposedly what the Nazis were going to Antarctica for, to use it to power weapons, and part of that being UFOs and whatnot. So that's probably true. I know it sounds like something out of a movie, but there is a lot to unpack about Antarctica, and I think, and I've talked about it in previous episodes, I think that they'll come out with some stuff. Antarctica, a lot of people know, like, there's stuff in Antarctica that's been hidden. So I think as we get closer to disclosure and as deception keeps ramping up, some answers will come out of Antarctica that will not support the Bible, that will in fact probably call into question the Bible, or who knows where a new Bible will come from that will, oh yeah, the Bible we've had isn't quite right. It's close, but not quite. Close, but no cigar, right? So this is actually what's true. So yeah, Jesus can be a prophet or a great teacher or whatever, a nice person to kids, but he's not the Son of God, right? And he's certainly not the only way to heaven. And then it'll tie in the whole alien thing, as probably when the rapture happens, we can explain it away with those people were like the movie Bringers of the Dawn, Barbara Marciniak. They were messing up the harmony of the earth. They were in the way of the earth changes. They wouldn't, comply with the next age for humanity and how we need this DNA upgrade. So they were taken to another place, and now the rest of us can move forward with this. So they'll have a demonic explanation for the rapture that I'm sure the whole alien narrative has everything to do with. But I think Antarctica, they'll produce artifacts and manuscripts and things like that will make their story seemingly look believable. Like, oh, wow, this actually checks all of the boxes, right? We've had questions about the pyramids, and we've had questions about things like the Voynich manuscript and all these other, unexplained, things, and where did all the religions come from? Where did the earth come from? Where did mankind come from? And blah, 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 blah. So you can mix in a little bit of evolution from like Charles Darwin, except it's just going to be rebranded as we evolved from the early man that the aliens created and put here on planet Earth, and they've been back periodically to check on us, blah, 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 blah. I didn't really mean to get into this now because that's more for part 2, but it's essentially going to be the same subject. Anyway, I'm almost done with the news. Next. UFO files reveal reports of 4-foot-tall beings emerging from UFOs. That's typical of the little alien grays, which I don't believe they're aliens, but that's typically they're described as being between 3 and 4 feet tall. And I will get into what I think the grays are, just not yet. That'll be for part 2. Last piece of news here, and we're going to end it. So they patented a Hantavirus vaccine in 2025. What coincidental, convenient timing. Same thing they did with the COVID vaccine patent. I'm pretty sure. So that came out around 2020. They patented, I think, as early as 2015, if I remember correctly. So somebody's got the script ahead of time so that they can cash in on it, right? All right, that's it for the news. I think I got all the videos. Yeah, I did. So we're going to pop these up. We're going to end part 1, which didn't last that long. Those are the ways to contact me, follow, subscribe, whatever. I'll put everything up later on Substack, YouTube, and Spotify. Rumble should be live. It looks like Instagram disconnected. X, I think, is live. I don't really check anything, so hopefully. There's my email address. And then what the heck happened? These are the ways if you want to support Amber Alert Podcast that you can. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, any one of those ways. Also, if you have a business or something you'd like to be a sponsor, send me. Well, you could DM me on anything or send me an email, which is the same one right there under PayPal, and we could iron out the details. All right. So that was part 1. It is 7:02. I'm going to come back at 7:15 and we're going to start part 2, and we're going to get into the UFO thing that went viral from Perry Stone. And we'll get into some scriptures so people, hopefully you'll go to the Bible for your answers on the subject. All right. We'll get into it at 7:15. It'll be a new live stream. Goodbye. I'll see you there.